Rob Lehrke with
Yes, sir.
Insurance Matters, insurancemattersnc.com. Welcome in.
Thank you for having me.
It is a pleasure. Now, tell us a little bit about your line of insurance or your lines of insurance. What type of what-if events do you help cover?
Sure. We cover pretty much almost all aspects of insurance. We stay out of health insurance. We cover personal lines from homeowners to personal auto. My particular specialty is commercial insurance, manufacturing businesses, printers, any type of commercial business.
Okay. And the liability, the workman's comp, those kind of things with businesses?
Commercial auto, umbrellas.
Okay,
Yes.
so if I've got a fleet of vehicles out on the road.
You are a great prospect for us.
Okay, and a potential liability, a serious liability, if one of those vehicles gets into an accident, you're at
Absolutely.
fault, that could really have impacts financially on the business.
Huge impact. And if you're, regardless of what type of business you are, if you have a fleet of vehicles, that is probably your largest exposure from an insurance perspective.
Okay, well, what other types of exposure do business owners have that they may not really realize when they first open the doors and get into business?
So that's a great question. And that I would say that's almost a case-by-case scenario. And that's where having a competent quality agent can come in handy. Sitting down and looking at those exposures for a financial planner, you need professional liability. If you're a local business on Main Street and you have multiple people coming into your store on a daily basis, you need general liability, which is going to cover slips, trips, and falls.
Right.
So,
right. The caution wet floor sign is out, and somebody has a spill, and all of a sudden it's not mom and pop's general store, it's whoever's.
That's right. Whoever fell. But so that's a kind of a case-by-case scenario, if that makes sense.
Are you the person that goes and helps those business owners uncover those potential liabilities and therefore the need?
Absolutely, I am. Say I walk into a printer one day, I know they need to have printers, errors, and emissions, specifically. If they were to print an ad, say, for a business, and it's advertising a brand new Cadillac for, $49.99, not $49,999. They may be responsible for that.
The Pepsi Harrier jet thing,
yes,
right?
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Pepsi probably has pretty good insurance.
Although they're backed pretty well.
Yeah. To cover a Harrier jet, though, maybe not that much.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But yeah, just identifying those specific needs for each customer on an individual basis.
Have you ever been surprised where you've gone in, you thought it may be kind of a routine liability coverage call, but you discovered that there was more beneath the surface that a particular business needed as far as coverage or protection?
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
But, and you and I are both members of BNI, and last week I mentioned I, in 1 week, had 2 referrals that were for businesses that rented bouncy houses for children's parties and things like that.
Oh, wow. Injury potential there.
A huge injury potential. And, truth be told, I had never insured that type of business before. So when the first one came in, I had to research, what are all the potential exposures from, wind, blowing one of those, somebody puncturing a hole in the unit in the bouncy house.
So not just like the people that could potentially be injured, but the business assets themselves.
Absolutely. And that covers kind of both of those aspects. But so I had to research that first one, and kind of funny, but by the time the second guy called me, he probably thought I'd been insuring these businesses all my life because of all the information that I had gathered from the first one.
Yep. I've seen videos of those things blow away with people in them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's scary. But if my business is dependent on maybe a specific piece of equipment that is expensive or potentially irreplaceable, that is something that you would work through with the business owner and figuring out how to
absolutely
protect that.
Absolutely. and not only protect that piece of equipment to repair or replace it, but if that's your primary source of revenue, then we have products too that if that particular piece of equipment is out of commission and you lose sales because of it, we can help you there as well.
Okay, so even downtime because of equipment
Absolutely.
failure.
Absolutely.
Well, talk to me a little bit about workman's comp.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that we hear that term, but maybe don't really understand what it means truly. At least I don't.
So
Sometimes.
absolutely. I don't know how much in the weeds you want me to get with that, but there's two parts to workers' comp. There's the first part that everybody knows about. You get injured at work and you get paid your lost wages while you cannot come to work, and your medical bills are paid. And there's no dollar limit to that. But there's a second part of workers' comp that I don't think people typically know about, and that's called employer's liability. All right. And typically you'll see like a million for liability coverages for that. And that would be, let's say I get injured at work, and through my injury, I can no longer mow the lawn, take care of our property. And my wife could come back and sue the company for that, a loss of consortium.
Okay.
Right. So that's one area that employer's liability would cover. Now, if we swing back to the employee himself, if the employer puts in place a workers' compensation plan, the employee cannot sue the employer. They have to accept the workers' comp coverages, right? But the business has an exposure from an employer's liability standpoint, like I just mentioned, with the loss of consortium. So you need to make sure that that part is covered.
Okay. So the larger your team, probably the more important and the more expensive that coverage is?
Potentially, yes.
And or does line of profession also play?
I would say yes. More the line of profession is going to have an impact on your premium and something like that.
Okay. Well, like all insurance, it's something that we hope to never use.
Knock on wood.
But certainly important to have if that scenario that we are protecting against does occur.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about your past life, because I have often mentioned that I don't think anyone wakes up and says when they're a kid, I want to grow up and be an insurance agent. So how did the evolution of your past lead you to this career?
Absolutely. I'll try to make a long story short. Born and raised in the Metro Detroit area. Okay.
Lions fan?
Lions fan, Tigers fan. Yes.
Okay.
Dealt with it all.
Rough life.
It has. But we've had a few,
shining moments.
Shining moments with the Red Wings and even the Tigers. But and the NFL draft, we always say, is the Super Bowl for the Lions. So, but born and raised in Metro Detroit, I'd say at the age of 32, kind of came kicking and screaming, as most people, as you just mentioned, probably do, into the insurance industry. Started off with a company that strictly sold commercial insurance. I was a sales rep in the greater Michigan area, greater Detroit area for a couple of years with them. And then I was charged with taking an expansion team, managing that team, and kind of building it from scratch. And my job was to recruit, hire, train, develop, and I would say either people who were fresh out of college or maybe didn't have an insurance background but had some kind of sales competence, and develop them selling commercial insurance products to like Main Street businesses like UPS store, printer, dry cleaner. Okay. Training them on a few products, and then have them for about maybe a year and a half. And then when there was an opening in the next level, which was selling commercial insurance policies to manufacturing businesses, car dealerships, larger type businesses, they would come to me and say, okay, who's ready? And I would promote them. Was very successful in that position. It took, again, from scratch, built a highly performing team that was turning over employees 4, 5, 6 on an annual basis, and promoting them up into the upper ranks of the company. Did that job very well, and in 2010 received a promotion down here.
Okay.
And they kind of funny. I got a call from my boss one day and he said, "Hey, I've got a couple opportunities I'd like to discuss with you. The first one is in Minnesota." And I said, "Okay, number two."
Pass.
And then the second one was North Carolina. And I said, "Yeah, let's talk about that." So
Okay.
that brought me down to North Carolina. That company, I was down here for 5 years with them through 2015. They, through a change in at the top with the president, started going in another direction and started selling their insurance product more through agents than through their direct employees.
Okay.
Which, and that was my job. So in 2015, if I didn't want to move up to Stevens Point, Wisconsin, I had to,
back up north.
Yeah,
Trek back. Yeah.
I had to find an alternative.
You have gotten used to the warmer winters down here by that point.
Got rid of my snow shovel.
Yeah.
So realized I had to come over to the agency side.
Okay.
And that's pretty much where I've been ever since.
Now, by doing so, and I think this is an important point, there is not just one company that you have to write your business and all policies through. You have an open access to many and several different companies. So you are kind of that internal price check comparison for your clients and customers.
Absolutely. And not only price check, but going back to our previous conversation, when I walk into a specific business based on their characteristics, their operations, I can identify, okay, who is the best insurance company for that particular business, based on, customizing a policy for that business.
You mentioned car lots, and we've got another member of the BNI who sort of cheers for hailstorms on occasion, roofing business. Not that
one man's disaster.
Indeed, but car lots, I imagine that would be devastating, and that's something that would be covered under the protections that you offer?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
There's just things that you don't think about in business. Like doing paperwork and taxes. Everybody, it seems to be good at their profession, but hates that part of being in business. But then all of the potential, well, what if this, what if that kind of scenarios that can occur that you have to protect yourself against as a business owner.
Absolutely. And being an independent agent, I talked about the bouncy houses. I never expected a business like that to come through our door, but they did, and you got to be prepared to deal with that. But I throughout my career with my past company, there's certain markets or operations that I specialize in, and printers, for example. And you asked me about workers' compensation. So if you're a printer, and depending on the size, you might not believe this, but depending on the size of paper you're printing on, I can save you a lot of money on your workers' comp by getting you into a better class code based on that size of paper you're printing on. And so being an expert in those specific areas, if you're looking for insurance coverage, it's take your time and find somebody who knows what they're doing. And
where's the right time or point for a business owner to come and talk to you?
Sure. I would truly say anytime, obviously, but, somebody who's dealt with a workers' compensation audit, and gotten a surprise bill in the mail, somebody who's had their rates going up year after year, and with no good reason.
So just shopping rates.
Exactly.
Do you find that a lot of times there is a benefit to shopping rates every so often?
There absolutely is. And I try to do that for my customers, because if I don't, somebody else is going to, and truly that's what's in the best interest of my customers.
But for like health insurance or Medicare or college applications, there's no season for it. There's no open enrollment period. It really is an anytime the need is there.
So people typically have what's called a renewal date or an X date, which is a date their policy renews. And that is truly probably the best time to shop for your insurance. But again, without getting too much into the weeds, outside of workers' comp, you can really move your insurance at any time.
Okay. How about the team there at Insurance Matters? Because you are not a one-man show.
No, sir.
All right. Tell us a little bit about the team that you work with.
Absolutely. And we truly have a great team. Kathy Buchanan is the owner. She has owned the business since I want to say 2011. She started the business. Anne Marie is our account manager. And then Kobe is also an account manager. So there's 4 of us total. Again, great team. Kathy has a broad experience with personal lines and commercial lines. Anne Marie's got a lot of years of experience through State Farm and some other companies with personal lines specifically. And then I kind of have more of the commercial lines background.
And what area do you and your team cover?
So another great question. We heavily cover Fuquay-Varina, especially for the personal lines. We got a lot of local businesses here that we insure, but I truly go throughout the state of North Carolina, Virginia, South Carolina, and we have customers throughout up into Maryland.
Okay.
So I would say we cover the Mid-Atlantic area.
Okay, but based and work day to day right here.
Right here, Fuquay, yes. And I have a mobile office that I work out of.
All right, fantastic. Well, Rob, certainly appreciate you joining us here on the program. If somebody does need to check their coverage to do a price comparison, make sure they're getting the best rates and are protected as they should be in business. Unfortunately, we do have a bullseye on us at certain points in time, and then things can happen without any ill intention. If they want to check their protections, their insurance coverage, how can they get in touch with you?
Sure. The best way to get in touch with us, you mentioned earlier, my email is rob@insurancematternc.com. They can call me directly at 919-802-7855, or they can call our office at 919-577-6700.
Right.
And we are located right in downtown Fuquay.
Fantastic. So, Rob Lehrke, Insurance Matters. Pleasure having you on.
Yes, sir, Peter. I appreciate you having me.
Thanks.